Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, as you know, the last few weeks, we just seem to get terrible piece of news after terrible piece of news after terrible piece of news as it relates to gun violence problems in this country. Sunday was a little bit of an exception because, yes, there was some terrible news about yet another shooting in the United States, this one in Indiana, but this one had a much different ending than the ones that we're accustomed to and ones that we would actually like to see a little bit more of. So today we're going to spend a few minutes and finally realize, yes, there is such thing as a good guy with a gun. Okay, before we get to the subject matter today, I do want to remind all of you that this video is being brought to you by Legal Heat. That's right. Legal Heat, the nation's largest educator on concealed carry classes, has taught over 200,000 people nationwide since they formed in 2005. In Washington State, out here in my state alone, they've taught almost 6,000 people just this year alone. For you Washington residents, you can find classes in any one of these locations. For those of you around the country, I'm sure you have classes right there in your neck of the woods. Now listen, if you sign up for a class and use promo code Washington Gun Law, that is Washington Gun Law, all one word, you'll receive $10 off your first class. For more information, visit them at mylegalheat.com. Okay, Dateline, Sunday, July 17th, the Greenwood Mall in Indiana. 20-year-old Douglas Samaritan entered into the mall, went into the bathroom with what I believe was a semi-automatic rifle and several magazines of ammunition, came out into the food court and opened fire on all the innocent bystanders who happened to be sitting there. This was, for all intents and purposes, a mass shooting that commenced at the moment he came out and began firing. Multiple people were wounded. 3 individuals, unfortunately, perished because of their wounds. Now, is this a situation where Mr. Samaritan then gets to shoot up the entire food court, wounding 20, killing another 13? No, it's not. And why? Well, that's because 22-year-old Elisjsha Dicken happened to be near the food court, and Elisjsha was concealed carrying a firearm. Elisjsha engaged the shooter from a distance of approximately 30 yards, according to security camera videos and police reports that have since been circulated from that. Despite the fact that Mr. Samaritan had fired nearly 24 shots, Mr. Dicken was able to immobilize him and terminate him in approximately 10 shots. That's right, folks. A good guy with a gun stopped the bad guy with a gun. Now, how many lives were saved? Who knows? But we could go back and we could take a look at every round that was not spent from that shooter and realize that each one of those could have meant one human life. Now, there are several interesting things beyond the obvious point. Number one, although many people were quick to call Mr. Dicken a hero, which is exactly what he is, there were some, those on the progressive left, who believed that Mr. Dicken was anything but a good Samaritan and really did not deserve to be called a hero. Some were quick to point out that the Greenwood Park Mall actually has a no firearms policy. That's right. The mall restricts firearms from being there. So you see, Mr. Dicken was in violation of mall policy. How could you be a good Samaritan if you're such a scoundrel? Now, of course, they failed to point out that Mr. Samaritan, the now deceased shooter, was also in violation of that policy. Well, that brings up an interesting point. What is the difference between violating a private policy and violating a statutory gun-free zone? Well, I'm not familiar with the laws are in Indiana, but if they're anywhere similar to Washington State, in Washington State, we have several statutes, 941-280 restricting firearms at schools, 941-285 restricting firearms at daycare centers, 941-300 restricting firearms at correction facilities, courthouses, airports, liquor stores, cannabis stores, and several other areas. If you are found in violation of those restrictions, that is, you knowingly take a firearm into one of those places, yeah, you're in violation of the law. You can be charged with a crime. There are consequences for it because the legislature has said these places are off limits, and if you violate this law, you are now criminally liable. That's not what Mr. Dicken did here, okay? And we've done a couple of videos. This one here And this one here, which kind of talks about the difference between gun-free zones and no guns allowed. The Greenwood Park Mall, and as a private entity, a private business, they have the right to do this. They can restrict firearms from their property, and that was the case. Now, the Greenwood Mall should have realized, and certainly does now realize, that their restrictions really don't mean anything to both unlawful gun users as well as lawful gun users. You see, because had Mr. Dicken not violated the store policy, the Greenwood Mall likely would have been the site of one of the nation's largest mass shootings. So what could the Greenwood Mall do? Well, they could trespass him. They could forbid him from coming back there for a year or extended duration of time. They could theoretically trespass him forever from the Greenwood Park Mall, a mall that will someday probably have a plaque or a statute commemorating his heroics. Now, had this incident taken place at a school, a daycare center, the security area of an airport, a correctional facility, a courthouse, inside a liquor store, inside a weed store, something like that, and it took place in Washington, yeah, Mr. Dicken now is in violation of the law. And so even though he is a hero, he was breaking the law when he became a hero. Now, as a prosecutor, would I charge that? I don't know if I would. There would be a lot of political pressure one way or the other. And in this state, that pressure would depend on what side of the mountains you live on. But here's the other point I want you to be aware of. Indiana just recently, and I do mean within the last couple of months, became a constitutional carry state. And Mr. Dicken is only 22 years of age, which means he probably was not eligible for Indiana's concealed carry license until within the last 12 to 24 months. Now, what is the lesson to be learned here? There are many states who have very extreme and restrictive measures which really precludes individuals from being able to carry concealed lawfully and therefore be able to protect themselves and others around them. The state of Indiana, very wisely, as have 25 other states in the country now, said, listen, under constitutional carry, if you are otherwise lawfully allowed to possess a firearm, you can conceal carry that firearm in our state. That law, the creation of constitutional carry in Indiana on Sunday, without a doubt, saved countless lives. Without that, Mr. Dicken probably would have not felt comfortable concealed carrying a firearm anywhere outside his home, certainly would not have had it at the Greenwood Mall. I don't know whether his violation of the mall's policy was unintentional or intentional. Did he know he was doing it and didn't care anyways, or was he just completely oblivious to the policy? Candidly, there are several grocery outlets that I have violated their policy and only learned much later that I had violated it on countless occasions. And then the last point here is law enforcement was very complimentary of the way Mr. Dicken handled himself in this situation from both a ballistic and tactical standpoint. Now, I don't know if this young man has done some training or had some natural skills or whatever, but the ability to do things in a proficient and tactical manner meant many lives were saved, and Mr. Dicken was able to do so while preserving his life as well. I'm sure the likes of John Correa and Active Self-Protection will probably put a video out on this as soon as the video footage is available, and I would always encourage you to check out what they're doing over there. Their material is fantastic. So, what did we learn from all of this? Well, let's take it full circle. Number one, yes, there is such thing as a good guy with a gun. Two, yes, there is a huge difference between violating no guns allowed versus violating gun-free zones. One subjects you to criminal liability. One subjects you to some dislike from a private entity. Number three, constitutional carry is good. Constitutional carry saves lives. And constitutional carry saved many lives in this instance. And then to take this full circle and come back to the point that we all need to make, yes, there really is such thing as a good guy with a gun. Thank God for that. Listen, you may have more questions about this issue or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights, and if you do, remember you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Hey everyone, Bill here with Washington Gun Law. Hey, I just wanted to remind you that we are rapidly approaching the first Monday of the next month. That is Monday, August 1st. We will go live at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube. We will have an opportunity to talk about all the things going on with your Second Amendment rights on a statewide, nationwide level, from the ATF, the Biden administration, Congress, Bob Ferguson here in the state of Washington, and all the other things going on related to you, the lawful and responsible gun owner. So once again, join us Monday, August 1st, 7 p.m. That's 7 p.m. Pacific time right here on YouTube. In the meantime, I hope all of you stay safe.